We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast brought to you by our good friends at MyBookie. Guys, don't miss out on this great promo offer that they've got for you right now. All you have to do is go to mybookie.ag, use our code UGA when you sign up for a new account, and your first bet is going to be fully covered all the way up to $500. So if you miss that first bet, if you hit the first bet, you get that money. Awesome, great. But even if you miss it, as long as it's not more than $500, you got that bet fully covered. So jump on this offer while you can, guys. But today on the show, I've got my final thoughts and my final prediction for this big top 15 SEC showdown between Georgia and Tennessee that will be played at Neyland Stadium on Saturday. We'll be all over that, guys. But first, before we get there, if you're a diehard Georgia fan, this episode and everything that we do here on this channel is designed 100% with you in mind. It's for you guys. So go ahead and subscribe right now. Hit those notifications so that you don't miss any of our content the rest of this season and beyond. Like, comment, all that, guys. It really is a huge help. First off, thank you so much for being here and supporting the show that way. But any other support, likes, comments, subscriptions, all that, it's a huge help, guys, and it's certainly greatly appreciated. But all right. So earlier in the week, our last episode, I did my deep dive game preview into this matchup between Georgia and Tennessee. I broke down everything, guys. The numbers, the personnel, the matchups, the storylines, you name it. We broke it down on that episode. So if you want a more holistic look at this game, at this match between Georgia and Tennessee, go back and check out that episode. I think you guys will enjoy that. But today, it's time to put it all together and give you my final whole meat to prediction in this matchup between the Dogs and the Vols. And guys, this has been a fascinating week. Watching the national media, the regional media, all the talking heads out there, and really just the general college football viewing public at large react so strongly to these early season results of Georgia and Tennessee against overmatched opponents. And yeah, I know Tennessee did play an FBS opponent week 1 in Atlanta, played Syracuse. But guys, if you've watched Syracuse, if you watched that game, if you paid attention to what Syracuse did last week against Connecticut, you would know that is not a good football team. And that was a 12-point game, Tennessee-Syracuse. I know it's week 1, whatever, but it was a 12-point game with 4 minutes to go. So yeah, Tennessee was in control, but it wasn't like they were just demolishing Syracuse all game long. Again, that Syracuse team, Connecticut, they were down 2 scores most of that game last week, came back, tied it late, and won that game in overtime. So yeah, FBS team, give them credit there, but that is a very, very bad FBS team this year. But the fact is, the reality is, people have drawn these definitive conclusions about both teams, about Georgia and Tennessee, based on those results, again, against overmatched opponents. People are now convinced that Georgia just cannot throw the football down the field, that Gunnar Stockton is just clearly in over his head. The guy can't hack it. And they've convinced themselves that Tennessee is just all the way back to its explosive offensive ways that we saw back in 21 and 22. Not as much the last couple years. That Tennessee is now caught up with Georgia. In fact, these teams' first 2 games this season have many around the country, more than just a few people, guys. If you listen to the national conversation, you know what I'm talking about. Have people convinced that Georgia just simply cannot. They just simply cannot go into Knoxville and find a way to win this game. That Tennessee, right now, this year, in this matchup, is clearly the better football team. And you know what, guys? That may end up being the case. I don't know for sure either way right now. My point is, how do you know? How do you know who's a better team based off what they've done against these clearly overmatched opponents? So I personally, just me, you don't have to be with me on this, I'm just not in the business of going overboard and drawing definitive conclusions off of results like we've seen from these 2 teams against the types of teams that they have played. I'm old now, man. I'm old. I've been around too long. I've seen this story way too many times. And look, guys, I myself have been fooled in the past by these early season results. You watch team week 1, week 2 just blow out some baby seal. And you go, oh my God, this team's unstoppable. And then they play a real team with a real defense or real offense, and all of a sudden it doesn't look exactly like it did against some overmatched FCS team or lower tier FBS program. So I have had to learn the hard way. I have learned my lesson. And guys, look, I'm not here to tell you that Tennessee offense isn't good. I'm not here to tell you that definitively it's not back to what it was in 21 and 22. It may, in fact, be back. Maybe, maybe. We'll find out. But all I would say to that is, are you sure? Are you sure that you know that based off of what Tennessee has done against a very bad, yes, FBS team, but very bad Syracuse team and a clearly overmatched East Tennessee State team? Because, guys, let's not forget it wasn't all that long ago. Let's, in fact, just go back 1 year. Let's just go back 1 year, for example, okay? People were awfully excited. I remember this last year, guys, early last year. People were awfully excited about that 2024 UT offense, right? Because back then, that's when people thought Nico Iamaleava was good. I was kind of telling people back then, like, I don't know, man. We'll see. I was kind of singing the same song I'm singing right now. Like, yeah, maybe he'll be really good, but I don't know. We have to really see it in real games. And the early season results last year against overmatched opponents were, oh, yeah, Nico's awesome. This Tennessee offense, like, he was the missing pieces back to being what it was in 21 and 22 when they were dropping 50 and 60 burgers on basically everybody out there. And if you go back to last year, Tennessee opened the season by outscoring Chattanooga and Kent State by a combined score of 140-3. They put up over 700 yards against both Chattanooga and Kent State, a lot like they just did to East Tennessee State last week. They week 1 dropped 51 on NC State, a team that historically past 5, 6, 7 years has played good defensive football. So you look at those first 3 results, like, oh my God, Tennessee's a juggernaut. Nico's the real deal. He might be a Heisman front runner. Like, this offense is back. Like, can anybody stop Tennessee? And then what happened? That same Tennessee offense that people were so excited about based off what they did against these overmatched opponents went on to be the single worst offense in the Josh Heupel era to date, to that point. They put up less than 350 yards against half of its SEC opponents. So in half of its SEC games, they put up under 350 yards. That team that put up 700 on Tennessee Chattanooga, 700 plus on Kent State, 51 against NC State, put up 51 points. And then they get in the SEC against real competition, all of a sudden not the same thing, right? So all I'm saying is be careful. Be careful about overreacting to the type of results that we've seen to this point, because we have simply seen this story before as recently as, last year. So again, I'm not saying that the Tennessee offense is not better this year. I'm just simply not ready to fully make that determination based off of the performances to date against the type of teams they have played at this point. We'll see when they play a real team, like, the Georgia Bulldogs. And then on the other side, looking at the Georgia standpoint, are you sure? I know a lot of people are convinced, but are you sure that Georgia is just incapable of pushing the ball vertically down the field? Are you sure it had nothing at all to do with the way that both Marshall and Austin Peay were playing us defensively by playing 8, 9, sometimes 10 yards off our receivers at the cornerback spot and consistently playing with either 2 high or in some cases 3 high safety looks? Are you sure that our inability to push the ball down the field had absolutely nothing to do with that? And it was all just Gunnar Stockton is just garbage and can't do it? Are we sure? Are you sure that had nothing to do with the fact that Georgia has been running an extremely scaled down version of its offense? And guys, if you think that's a cop out, go watch the tape. Like, come on. If you know football, you know what I'm talking about here. Because I'll tell you right now, I am not sure that those factors have not played a prominent role in the perceived issues of the Georgia offense, at least specifically the Georgia passing game. But hey, I'm in the minority here, man. A lot of people out there are just claiming to have both teams entirely figured out. 2 weeks in the season, we got to figure it out, man. We know what all these teams are. I, again, just personally am not there. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I know you turn on videos like this and you watch episodes like this because you want me to tell you exactly what's going to happen. Guys, it's week 3. We don't definitively know. And I'm not afraid to tell you, I don't definitively know right now. I don't know. We're going to find out. All right. We will find out this week who's the better team, right? Because this is the first time that both teams have played like, come on, somebody with a pulse. So we'll find out. And that's what makes this one a really tough game to predict. But I know you're here to get a prediction. So let me tell you what I do know. Okay. Here's what I do know. I know that Georgia has won 8 straight in this series. I know Georgia has won all 4 of the matchups between Georgia and Tennessee in the Josh Heupel era. You can throw out the other 4 before Josh Heupel got there. That is irrelevant to this matchup as far as I'm concerned. But what I do find to be relevant are the 4 matchups between Kirby Smart and Josh Heupel. Those Georgia teams and those Tennessee teams. Guys, Josh Heupel has never beaten Georgia. Like, you know that. We know this. Now, that doesn't mean he can't. I think we have to be careful here. I oftentimes try to remind myself of this. We cannot confuse has not with cannot. Those are 2 different things, right? Like I know that we still have trouble with Alabama. That's just kind of the way it is until we change that. But going into the 2021 national title game, what was the narrative? Well, Kirby can't beat Saban. Well, let's be careful. Kirby had not beaten Saban to that point, but has not did not mean cannot, right? So you have to be careful here. I'm not telling you that Tennessee cannot beat Georgia, but if you look at the matchups, the first 4 times these teams have played in the Josh Heupel era, it's not only that Georgia's won, Tennessee's not even come especially close. Last year was the closest they came, got out to an early lead. Georgia ends up winning by 2 touchdowns, but that was a much closer game for the vast majority of the game than the previous 3 matchups had been. But the reality is, guys, Georgia has won all 4 of these games with Josh Heupel at the helm of the Tennessee program by an average of 20 points. So we're talking essentially 3 touchdowns here, guys. And here's another thing I know. I know, as I laid out in depth on my deep dive preview. So again, go check that out if you guys haven't seen that yet. I know the Tennessee offense has struggled mightily against the Georgia defense in a way that it just quite frankly has not against other SEC teams. So here's the numbers. I threw these out earlier in the week. I'll throw them out again in case you missed that episode. Against all SEC teams, not named Georgia, in the Josh Heupel era, Tennessee has averaged offensively 465 total yards a game, 6.85 yards per play, and 34 points per game. Again, that's against every SEC team they have played in the Josh Heupel era, not named Georgia. Well, what about Tennessee versus Georgia? How's that vaunted Tennessee offense fared against the Bulldog defense? Well, not as good. In fact, Tennessee against Georgia, 4 matchups. We're not talking about a small sample size of 1 or 2 games. We're talking about all 4 games of the Josh Heupel era. Tennessee has averaged 316 and a half yards per game, 4.45 yards per play, and only 14 points per game. Have never surpassed 17 points against Georgia in the Josh Heupel era. So let's do the math here, guys. I ain't a math guy, but I can do this. That means that against Georgia, Tennessee's offense in the Josh Heupel era is averaging 150 yards per game less, 2.4 yards per play less, and 20 points per game less than they are against all other SEC teams. And that is not me making stuff up, guys. Go do the math yourself. Go check it out if you don't believe me. Those are the facts, all right? And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm not usually a huge fan of saying, well, what's happened in the past means that it's going to happen again this year. I'm not a fan of saying, well, this team has won so many games over this team historically that means you're going to win this year. I don't usually put that much stock into it as a way to predict what happens in a game this year. I usually believe that games are independent entities of their own. But in this case, guys, in this series, again, specifically the last 4 matchups with Josh Heupel at Tennessee, it's not just that Georgia has beaten Tennessee, beaten Josh Heupel's program 4 times in a row. That happens. Teams go on winning streaks like that. It's not just that we've beaten them. It's how and why Georgia has beaten Tennessee that I think is relevant in this matchup. The fact is, guys, Georgia has dominated Tennessee in the trenches in all 4 matchups, specifically the Georgia rush defense against the Tennessee rush offense, okay? I said this on the last episode. Again, go back and check that out. But Tennessee, at its core, guys, give you a quick little synopsis here. They want to create vertical shots down the field, create big play opportunities in the vertical passing game. And in order to do that, to generate those opportunities, they commit to the run against light boxes. So light boxes, what does that mean? That means they have even numbers or better in the box. So either there's the same number of defenders in the box and same number of offensive blockers in the box, or they have more blockers than there are defenders. That's what we classify as a light box. They run the ball against those looks time and time again. It's like an auto check. It's basically a box count at the line of scrimmage. So they're going to run, have enough success doing so until eventually you get tired of that and you start rolling safeties into the box. And then that creates those one-on-one vertical shots on the outside, down the field, and they gut you with those kill shots. That's how they put up 70 plus points on teams like Kent State and East Tennessee State. That's how they do it, guys. So those teams just can't match up. They can't stop them. They can't stop the run game with even numbers. So they roll safeties in the box and they get murdered down the field because their DBs just simply cannot run with Tennessee's receivers and they have the wide splits. So it's hard to get safety help over the top anyway. But that just has not worked against Georgia. Why not? Well, it's simple, guys. Georgia has been able to control the Tennessee ground game, all four matchups against Josh Heupel's teams to this point, with even numbers in the box. We are willing and able to play their offense with light boxes because we have the defensive talent, the front six, to stop their run game, at least hold their run game relatively in check in a way that other teams simply cannot, which means that Georgia does not have to roll safeties down to the box, which means that Georgia can maintain structural integrity in the back end, keep that too high shell, which means ultimately that Georgia limits those, or in most cases outright eliminates those one-on-one opportunities that Tennessee is trying to create offensively to generate those explosive plays that allow them to pull away from basically every other team they play, not named Georgia. Our guest last year, Ohio State as well. Ohio State's defense was really good. They were able to stop the run as well. So that's why Georgia has been able to stifle the Tennessee offense in a way that no other SEC team has done, at least not consistently, right? And that's why Tennessee averages 20 points fewer per game, 150 yards fewer per game, 2.5 yards per play less against Georgia than they do against all other SEC teams. So, in predicting this game, if that is the case, which it clearly is, guys, just go watch the tape. The question I keep coming back to as I consider this matchup and try to decide like where my head is on this matchup, the question I keep asking myself is this: has that changed this season? Has Georgia's ability to control the Tennessee ground game with light boxes, with even numbers in the box, has that changed this year? Has Georgia gotten worse in the front six? Has Tennessee gotten appreciably better on the offensive line in the run game? Because last year, guys, the Tennessee offensive line was one of the best that I was one of the better offensive lines in the country. It was clearly the best offensive line in the Josh Heupel era. They had the SEC Offensive Player of the Year running back in Dylan Sampson. And yeah, they had more success running the ball against Georgia last year than they had in the previous three matchups, but it still wasn't enough to be able to create the matchups outside that they wanted to. So that's the question I keep asking myself. If they couldn't do it last year, why would that change this year, right? Why would Tennessee be able to run the ball against this Georgia front six, this Georgia rush defense with more success this year to the point where they can create those vertical shots that they want to, even though they lost 4 or 5 stars on the offensive line, lost their top running back, who was one of the better players in the entire country? Is that really something that's reasonable to expect, right? That's the question you have to ask here. Now, I will say this for Tennessee. I do think that they are better at quarterback. I think they're probably better at receiver. I think there's more explosive options at receiver than there were the past couple years. I think they're not where they were in 2022 receiver, but they're closer to that than they have been in either of the past 2 years. And I do think that Joey Aguilar has better vertical accuracy, a very comparable arm, good athleticism. He's a little newer to this system, but he is a guy that is more equipped to hit those downfield shots if they are presented to him. But again, I keep coming back to the question, can they run the ball more effectively? Why should I believe that they can, especially against a Georgia defense, a Georgia front six that I believe is more talented, deeper, and healthier, has more players ready to play winning football for Georgia than they did last year when Tennessee was at its best in terms of its run game in the Josh Heupel era. Now, this game is at home for Tennessee. It is in Knoxville. It's at Neyland Stadium, big stadium, raucous environment. Sure, that certainly will help to a degree. But guys, okay, if you want to throw that out there, so well, Tennessee's playing at home. Like Georgia's, man, they can't handle that. Well, guys, Georgia's beating Tennessee by an average of 26 points in each of its last 2 trips to Knoxville, which also just so happen to be against Josh Heupel teams. I'm not even talking about Jeremy Pruitt games. I'm talking about the last 2 times Georgia's played Tennessee in Knoxville when Josh Heupel was running that Tennessee program. Georgia's beating them by an average 26 points. So, I mean, yeah, it's a tough place to play, no doubt, but it hasn't really been that much of a factor the past couple times we've gone there. Why? Again, because Georgia has simply dominated the Tennessee run game. And this is not me taking shots at Tennessee, guys. I think it's a good program. It's a good team this year. I respect them. But just go back and look at the last couple matchups, guys. It is what it is. And I think based on what I know of these two teams right now, which like I said earlier, I'm still learning about these two teams. I don't know everything about these two teams based off the first 2 weeks. Now, I've gone back and watched both teams' first 2 games multiple times, certainly more of Georgia's, but I got the all 22 of Tennessee's first 2 games and gone through those in preparation for this game so I can get you guys ready for it. So I've seen a lot, but there's only so much you can learn against teams like that. But I do think I've seen enough to right now be able to say that these two teams right now, I think I'm pretty confident that will be the case again this year, that Georgia's run defense will be able to hold the Tennessee ground game in check. Now, yes, again, it's admittedly a very small sample size, but I don't see any reason right now to think that anything should change in that dynamic between the Georgia rush defense and the Tennessee rush offense this year. And look, guys, like I know you might say, well, like, how do you know Georgia's that good if you've played Marshall and Austin Peay? Guys, I've seen the Georgia got the players in Georgia front six for years now, right? And a lot of these guys have taken steps forward, guys moving into new roles. The Georgia front six is extremely talented, guys. I think, again, arguably more talented than last year. I think there's more players on the defensive front that are capable to roll in there and play winning football for Georgia. We are deeper and better at inside linebacker. Guys like Justin Williams and Chris Cole weren't really factors last year in that game. They weren't really quite ready, but those are extraordinarily talented guys, 5-star players. CJ Allen has clearly taken a step right now. Like PFF's grades, take it with a grain of salt, a massive grain of salt. I put a lot more of emphasis and respect into their qualitative data as opposed to their quantitative, or more emphasis in their quantitative stuff than I do their qualitative stuff. But right now, he's PFF's highest graded inside linebacker through the first 2 weeks of the season. So he has taken that step at inside linebacker for Georgia. So that's kind of where I am right now. I think the Georgia rush defense is once again going to be able to hold that Tennessee ground game in check. And if that is the case, if Tennessee cannot run the football more effectively this game, guys, I'm just going to be real. I don't know how Tennessee wins this football game if that's the case. I just don't know. I don't know what their path to victory is. Because remember, Tennessee, under Josh Heupel, has still never cracked 17 points against Georgia's defense, and there's a reason for that. And I just don't know why that reason would change right now. Now, the concern, of course, for Georgia is the Georgia offense in this matchup. I am not nearly as concerned about the Georgia offense right now as some in the Georgia fan base are and some outside the Georgia fan base are. But I do have some concerns of my own. I am not without concern. My concerns, I think, are just a little bit different. Most people are concerned about Gunnar Stockton and the vertical passing game and our ability to get that going. My concerns aren't so much about that. I'm still in wait and see mode there. I'm not telling you that he's going to light it up down the field. I'm in wait and see mode there, but I'm not ready to say he can't do it right now based off what I've seen on the all 22. I broke that down, all 34 passes against Austin Peay earlier this week. You go back and check that episode out as well. But my concerns are more about the Georgia offensive line, specifically the right side of the offensive line, because while I'm not convinced the Tennessee offense will do what people are expecting it to do in this game, I do believe the Tennessee defense is very good. Very good. And they have some legit pass rushers. Guys, the past 2 years, the Tennessee defense has been the driving force behind this Tennessee team, especially last year. That was a top 10 caliber Tennessee defense. They were elite last year. People just don't view Tennessee like that because of Josh Heupel and his reputation as an offensive mastermind, but that's been the reality. So with their defense, their pass rushers, guys like Joshua Josephs, that's concerning to me with all the uncertainty around Georgia's offensive line, specifically, again, the right side of the offensive line with our starting right guard and right tackle going out in week 1, not playing last week. Seems like they did a lot of practice this week in terms of individual drills, some scout teamwork, but it's still a massive question there. And the guys that we've had playing in the first half last week, Michael Weaney and Jazar Jackson, didn't exactly inspire a lot of confidence. I liked what we did in the second half with Dontrell Glover and Bo Hewley. I thought they looked a lot better. But that's a big question for me right now. No doubt about it. But if the offensive line for Georgia in this game can find a way to give Gunnar time to get those passes off, for those routes downfield to develop, and for Gunnar to deliver them, I do believe that Gunnar in the Georgia passing game might just silence a lot of those doubters out there that came out of the woodwork after that game against Austin Peay. Now, why do I believe that? I'm not going to say I believe it. Let me tell you why I believe that, okay? You might not agree with me, but I'm going to support my opinions here. Well, number one, as we talked about earlier in the week, Tennessee is down both of its starting cornerbacks, including Jermod McCoy, who last year was one of the better cornerbacks, not just in the SEC, but the entire country. Ricky Gibson also has gone down as well. So That leaves them a little bit vulnerable back there to a vertical passing game. And number two, I do believe in Georgia's wide receivers. I think we've seen that in small doses to this point. Like obviously, it's been a shorter passing game with the way the defenses have been playing us. But I believe in Zachariah Branch. I absolutely believe in Colby Young. I believe in Noah Thomas. I believe in Dylan Bell. I believe in guys like Talon Taylor. I think we have legit options at receiver in a way that we just simply have not in quite some time. And so I believe if we can get Gunner time, again, that's a big if, the rest of the country might just be about to find out how good Georgia's wide receivers are in 2025. And then the third thing here is my guess, trying to project what Tennessee is going to do defensively, trying to defend this Georgia offense, would be that Tennessee, seeing what our offense has looked like this year, heavy run game, heavy screen game, will not want to just give us the free access yards that teams like Austin P and Marshall gave us, because if you do that, then you give us 6-7 yards a pop, and we're going to matriculate the ball down the field, and that's going to be tough to stop, right? And we're just going to chew clock and some limit possessions, and it changes the whole dynamic of the ball game. So they will probably be of the mind that Gunner is going to have to prove it to them. I believe that they are going to make Gunner Stockton beat them. It's kind of one of those things like, hey, man, if you do it, tip of the cap to you. But we're going to make you do it, make you show us you can do it in a way that you have not done it to this point. And that's a fair question, guys. Again, the Gunner doubts, do I think they're a little overblown? Yes, but the reality is he hasn't done it consistently yet on the field in real games. So there is a question there. That's why I'm in wait and see mode. I just happen to lean more towards the side of, I believe in Georgia wide receivers. I've seen Gunner do it in practice. I've seen Gunner do it in scrimmage settings. I've seen him do it to a lesser degree, a smaller sample size in real games. If you go back to the Notre Dame game, which I thought he performed admirably in a tough spot there. So I think Tennessee is going to load the box, take away our run game, get their corners close to the line of scrimmage to take away our screen game, and they're just going to gamble. They're going to gamble that with the issues that we've had on the right side of the offensive line and their pass rushers, their defense, that they're going to be able to get to Gunner, and even if their DBs get beat on the outside, that we're not going to have time to get those balls off vertically down the field. That is what I anticipate Tennessee is going to do in this game. And look, guys, we might not be able to handle it. We might not be able to handle their pass rush. We might give up way too much pressure, and it might be a tough day for the Georgia offense. That is certainly a possibility. All I'm saying, though, is if Georgia can protect Gunner just long enough to let those routes develop, to allow him to get that football off. If Georgia can maybe move the pocket a little bit with Gunner and kind of get away from some of those the pass rush that Tennessee I think is going to try to bring against the Georgia offense, I believe that we can win on the outside against Tennessee's backup cornerbacks. Our receivers, who I think are the best receivers that Georgia has had. I know it's a small sample size, but I believe this, guys. I've seen it a lot in the offseason. The best receivers Georgia's had maybe in the Kirby Smart era in totality. If we give Gunner time, they're going to get open. I think Gunner can hit them. I'm telling you guys, I've just seen it. So ultimately, I think that's what this game comes down to, guys. I said it earlier in the week. I'll say it again. This game is going to come down to trench warfare. And I know that kind of seems somewhat counterintuitive. You think about like the reputation, the perception of the Tennessee offense, the Tennessee football team under Josh Heupel. But guys, this has become a very physical football team. And if they are going to reverse their fortunes against Georgia, they are going to have to just outfight Georgia in the trenches. At some point, they're going to have to beat Georgia in the trenches, or at least close the gap enough to give them a chance to do what they want to do and get those kill shots down the field. If not, I just don't see how Tennessee can win. So that's the question, guys. Can Georgia continue that trend of containing the Tennessee run game? And for me, based on the combination of the Tennessee offensive line not being what it was a year ago, and in my opinion, the Georgia front six being better than it was a year ago, and Tennessee's offensive line that was awesome last year, I think the best in the Josh Heupel era, still not being enough for them to run the ball well enough to create what they wanted to on the outside. I believe the answer to can Georgia continue to stop the Tennessee run game? I believe the answer to that question is yes. Until I see otherwise, I'm going to say yes there. And then the other part of this is the other side of the trenches. Can the Georgia offensive line protect Gunner Stockton long enough to give him time to get off shots down the field to take advantage of that deficiency, that vulnerability that Tennessee has in the secondary with those backup cornerbacks? Now, that one, I'll be real with you, I'm a lot less confident in. I'm a lot less confident in saying, oh, yeah, Georgia's going to be able to do that, because I haven't seen the Georgia offensive line do that consistently against like clearly overmatched opponents to this point. So that's why I'm not wildly confident in this pick, in this prediction, guys. Now, each of the last 3 seasons, I've been screaming from the rooftops. I mean, going back to 2022, when everybody's like, I mean, Tennessee fans went bananas out there on social media, just telling everyone how they were going to destroy Georgia, coming to Sanford Stadium, and just kill Georgia. And I was like, that's not going to happen, guys, because you can't block Georgia. You can't block Georgia. You can't do what you want to do offensively. And it turned out that way. And it's been that way each of the last 3 seasons. And I was very confident predicting Georgia in all 3 of those matchups. This one, certainly less so. But I still love the matchup of the Georgia rush defense against the Tennessee rush offense. Now, I'm not as confident in the Georgia offensive line against a very good Tennessee defense. So because of that and the fact that it is in Neyland Stadium, Tennessee, of course, is absolutely capable of winning this game. Like, that should not be a shock to anyone if they end up winning this football game. But where I am right now is I need to see this Tennessee offense under Josh Heupel finally do something that it hasn't in his entire tenure at that program. Have an answer for the Georgia rush defense. Now, maybe they will. Maybe this is the year they finally figure it all out. That possibility does exist. And I think their best shot here is to hope that the Georgia offense just can't string together first downs against their defense. So the Georgia defense is on the field a lot in this game. And then by the time we get late in the game, the Georgia defense starts to wear down and maybe they can start to lean on Georgia a little bit. I think that's their best hope here. Just kind of hoping to be able to wear Georgia down. But guys, I'm a history guy. Love history. So I'm going with what history tells me in this one. The history of the matchup between the Josh Heupel offensive scheme and the Georgia run defense. And there's this too, guys. I'm also going with the history of Georgia under Kirby Smart when people out there start to publicly, openly doubt the Dogs. Guys, we've seen it so many times. Even let's look at the recent years, guys. We saw it, speaking of Tennessee, in that game going into the Tennessee game in 2022. The world was picking Tennessee, guys. Everyone out there. Georgia didn't have a chance, right? How'd that turn out, right? You doubt Georgia publicly, Georgia comes out swinging. That's just what happens. And we have a poor performance one week, you better believe they come out swinging the next week. We saw it after the Mississippi State game last year. That performance defensively in the second half of that game against Mississippi State, dreadful. And people were outright panicking in the streets here in Athens. Oh my God, Texas is just going to murder us next week. Well, we go to Texas and what happens? Georgia comes out swinging, silence the doubters. You heard Kirby after that game. We saw it later that season after the Ole Miss game. Just an abysmal performance by Georgia. We got rocked in Oxford. Everybody's doubting Georgia. Then Tennessee coming to town the next week. This is the time. This is it. This is the year. Tennessee beats Georgia. All the doubters, after a rough performance like that, what does Georgia do? Come out swinging, man. We've seen it time and time again. If you give Kirby Smart that type of ammunition, I'm just telling you, watch out. Watch out. And we have that type of ammunition going into this game. So, with that history, give me the Dogs to go into hostile territory and win outright and cover the 3.5. I think this game will be closer. I actually kind of like the under in this game too, guys. I think these are two good defenses. I still do have some questions about the Georgia offense. Clearly still have some questions about the Tennessee offense being able to match up with the Georgia defense. So I'm not expecting another 3-touchdown margin like we've seen the past 4 years. But I think the matchups ultimately push Georgia over the top. Football is a game of matchups, guys, and the matchups in this series with Josh Heupel versus Kirby Smart, his Tennessee program versus Kirby's Georgia program, just favor Georgia, clearly. So I think Georgia leaves Knoxville 1-0 in the SEC and with its 9th consecutive win over the Volunteers. So we'll see how it plays out, guys. And if I'm wrong, I'll come back here and I'll take my medicine, man. You get some right, you get some wrong. But right now, until I see this Tennessee offense have an answer for the Georgia defense, I got to go with the Dogs. I do think it'll be closer. I think the margins have been reduced. But right now, I'm going Dogs minus 3.5 in this game. But we'll find out on Saturday, guys. I'll be there in Knoxville. We'll be back here on Sunday night to recap everything that goes down. If I'm wrong, I'll own it, guys. But thank you guys so much for being here. I greatly appreciate you. Again, if you're a diehard Georgia fan, go ahead, subscribe right now. Turn those notifications on, like, comment, tell me what you think. Is Georgia going to make this 9 in a row? Or is this Tennessee's years to reverse its fortunes against the Bulldogs? Let me know what you think. Tell me how wrong I am. I know you want to. Tell me how wrong I am. Or maybe some of you out there agree. I'd love to hear that too. But thank you guys so much for being here. Have an awesome football Saturday. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.